Hello everyone, I'm Amjad Slika and I'm going to be your tutor for the BIO202 course for this semester. So first, let's start by the first chapter of this course, which is about animal diversity. So before we start, as you know, there are three domains in life, okay, where all animals belong to these three domains, which are bacteria, eukarya, and archaea. Bacteria and eukarya, as we know, they are prokaryotes, whereas eukarya, it's eukaryotes. In this chapter, we're going to mainly emphasize on the kingdom Animalia, which belongs to the domain eukarya. So, speaking of animals, what are the general features of animals? So first, heterotrophy, where animals obtain energy and organic molecules from other organisms. We cannot produce our own energy. We cannot produce our own nutrients and food, like, for example, plants. Plants use photosynthesis to produce their own food. So they are autotrophs, whereas animals are heterotrophs. We need to consume from other animals or plants to survive. Second of all, multicellularity. As we know, we are multicellular organisms. Our bodies consist of trillions of cells that work together in a complex manner to just form these complex bodies of ours. Number three, no cell walls. We don't have cell walls, and this gives us the flexibility because cell walls generally are tough structures. So if our cells are surrounded by cell walls, then they're going to lose their ability to be flexible to respond to the environment, which is quite important in our bodies. Number four, active movement. Their swiftness increases while in motion and becomes more complicated. This means that we are able to respond to the environment around us more easier. We can move more easier. Okay, so and this is active movement. Number five, diversity of forms. Okay, animals have significant variations in their forms, where we can range from tiny creatures like insects, for example, to gigantic ones like elephants or zebras. So, what are other additional features of animals? First, the diversity of habitat, where animals are grouped into 35 to 40 phyla, and many of these are found in freshwater, in land, and in seas. So basically everywhere. Number two, sexual reproduction. The vast majority of animals reproduce sexually. Number three, embryonic development, where the zygote, okay, resulting after fertilization, as you're going to see after this slide, the zygote is going to undergo more than one, if you need to say, division cycles inside a ball, okay? And you're going to see this ball is named the blastula. You're going to see it in the next slide. And number four is the tissues, where, as we know, most animals have tissues, which are just basically functional units of most of the times similar type of cells that function, that have the same function. So as we said, the zygote, okay, divides in a ball first, okay, in the first division, and this is what gives rise to the blastula. The blastula is a multicellular structure produced by the evolving zygote after cleavage, which is a series of cell division. So what actually happens is that, as we know, the ovum is the largest cell in our body. So if we need to compare an ovum to a normal human cell, it's much bigger. So first, after the nucleus of the sperm just fuses with the nucleus of the ovum to give us the zygote is still in this blastula, and as a result is going to undergo different or multiple mitotic divisions inside this container, which is the ovum, before this container just starts itself to duplicate. So this is what a blastula means. Moving on, evolution of the animal body. So let's talk now more about the evolution of the animal body. So the first aspect that is studied upon studying evolution is symmetry. So virtually all animals have a certain type of symmetry except for sponges. Sponges don't have symmetry. And you have two types of symmetry, the radial and the bilateral. The radial symmetry, where, as we can see here in the C star, okay, where the body parts are fixed around a central axis. So if we pass any plane in this central axis, it will divide the animal, okay, into equal two halves. The second type is the bilateral symmetry, as we said, and where in this case the body has right and left halves that are mirror images of each other. And we are, as a humans, have bilateral symmetry, as you can see in this picture. So only one plane, which is the sagittal plane, can bisect the animal into two equal halves. And the sagittal plane is shown here in this picture, as you can see. So the bilateral has two advantages in comparison to the radial symmetry. So animals that have bilateral symmetry has two major advantages, which are cephalization, where we have development of a brain area. Our brain and our neurons basically are concentrated in a certain part of our body, which is the brain. And we have directional movement. Actually, radial symmetry. Okay, animals that have radial symmetry, they have kind of they kind of wiggle while moving. So they don't have this direct movement. They can move in all sides, and it's completely random. Whereas animals, okay, that have bilateral symmetry have a much more directional movement. A fun fact about sea stars can regenerate their body organs. So if we cut any organ of the sea star, it can regenerate it directly. And they cannot live actually in fresh water. They can reproduce sexually and asexually, and they can have up to 40 arms. They're actually very diverse, as you can see, from a very simple shape and the figure above to this complex sea star that have more than 40 arms. Now, evolution of the animal body plan. So, talking about evolution, so we have tissues now. They have unique functions and structures, and as we know that, zygotes are totipotents, so they produce other body cells. They can produce pretty much any body part. So first, the zygote is going to, as we know, divide to several number of cells, and then this number of cells are going to differentiate into different organs. Okay, so this are going to give us some cells are going to differentiate to the liver, others to the kidney, to the lungs, etc. As an embryo evolves, as I said, cells specialize. This process is reversible uniquely in sponges due to the lack of defined tissues and organs. As a result, they have the ability to disaggregate and aggregate their cells. Meanwhile, other animals have distinct and well-defined tissues. What's interesting about sponges is that they can revert back. Okay, so they can disaggregate and aggregate their cells. They can transfer their cells into to differentiate certain types, then they can revert them back. Okay, so they can grow and decrease in size. Moving on, talking about tissues, the majority of animals are triploblastic. And what does this mean? This means that they have three germ layers. All triploblastic animals are bilateria because they have bilateral symmetry. Okay, so when we talk about triploblastic animals, all triploblastic animals have bilateral symmetry. You're gonna see diploblastic animals, they could have radial symmetry, but all triploblastic animals have bilateral symmetry. And as I said, triploblastic means they have three germ layers. The three germ layers are first the outer ectoderm, which consists of the body coverings and the nervous system. The body coverings can be the skin, for example. We have the middle mesoderm, which consists of the skeleton and muscles, and we have the inner endoderm, which consists of the digestive organs and the intestine. So that kind of the cavity of the body, okay? Everything related to the digestive system and the small intestine. Sponges, on the other hand, they don't have specialized tissues, and as a result, they don't have germ layers, okay? Cnidarians, for example, and you can see the cnidarians later on in this chapter, talk more specifically about them, are diploblastic. So they don't have bilateral symmetry, if you need to remember. As I said, triple plastics always have bilateral symmetry. So cnidarians, as I said, are diploblastic because they have an endoderm only and an ectoderm. So they lack organs. Continuing in the evolution of the animal body, now let's talk about the body cavity. The body cavity is actually a remarkable development in the body plan of some bilaterians. It is separated from the exterior animal. So we need to make a differentiation between what's a body cavity and a digestive cavity. A body cavity is completely separated from the outer part, okay, from the environment, okay, of the body. whereas the digestive system has exteriors. It's open to the environment. Our digestive system is linked to the environment by our mouth and the anus. Okay, whereas the body cavity is completely closed. So the presence of a coelom, which is a body cavity, is critical to supporting and accommodating organs like the heart and the lungs, providing material and fostering complex developmental interactions. The mesoderm tissue produced during proliferation surrounds the body cavity. Okay, so when we talk about the body cavity, as we said, it is completely disconnected from the surrounding environment. It's referred to as a coelom, and a coelom is always surrounded by the mesoderm. So, according to that, we have three basic body plans. Animals could be acoelomates, they could be pseudocoelomates, and they could be coelomates. Acoelomates are animals that don't have a body cavity at all. Okay, so they don't have a cavity in their body that is completely disconnected from the surrounding. Maybe they could have digestive organs, for example, a digestive cavity, but they don't have a body cavity. Then we have pseudocoelomates. Pseudocoelomates are animals that have a body cavity, but this body cavity is surrounded, or is actually lies between the mesoderm and the endoderm. And we have coelomates, and as I said in the previous slide, coelomates have a body cavity that's completely surrounded by the mesoderm. As you can see, here are the three body plans. As you can see here, these are acoelomates. This is pseudocoelomates. Why? Because they have a body cavity, but it is surrounded by the mesoderm and the endoderm. Whereas this animal is coelomate. Why? Because it has the body cavity, as you can see here, that's completely surrounded by the mesoderm. So nutrients and oxygen are distributed, and fluids are eliminated by the fluid in the body cavity in many small animals. The majority of large animals have circulatory system. Actually, the importance of the body cavity is found more in these animals that don't have circulatory system. Our circulatory system, as we all know, is responsible for transporting nutrients, okay, to our sorry, nutrients for our body. Okay, as we know, from our heart is going to transport all these nutrients by blood to our cells. So animals, small animals specifically, that do not have a circulatory system, use this body cavity to exchange these fluid and nutrients to the cells. So the evolution of advanced organ systems was a result of the body cavity. Coelomates have a circulatory system that allows them to move in nutrients and remove wastes. Okay. So this is an illustration of an open circulatory system and a closed circulatory system. As I said, circulatory system is basically our heart and the vessels, okay, that carry the nutrients and gases like O2 and CO2 to the cells, from the cells and to the heart, and so on. So we have two types of circulatory system: the open circulatory system and the closed circulatory system. The open circulatory system is a circulatory system that's opened to the cells, to the other part of the body, where the heart is going to pump this blood, and then this blood is going to go through the vessels, and then is going to mix with the interstitial fluid, which is the fluid between the cells. So it's going to somehow pour the blood into the cells, and then this blood is going to go back to the heart. Okay, so the heart is open. The heart and the vessels are open to the whole body, whereas the closed circulatory system, like in our case, is completely closed. It's a circulatory system that doesn't, interfere or doesn't open to any other part of the body, where actually the blood is pumped from the heart through the vessels, and then from the vessels to the tissues, where the blood doesn't leave the vessels. Only the nutrients diffuse from the vessels to the tissues, and from the tissues to the vessels back, nutrients and gases. And then the blood, after it diffuses nutrients and gases, after actually exchanging of nutrients and gases between the cells and the blood, this blood is going to be transferred back by the vessels to the heart. Okay, so this is what's the difference between open and closed circulatory system. This was for this section of this chapter. I hope you find it as enjoyable as possible. These chapters, these three chapters actually that we're gonna see, are not as if we need to say as easy, they are basically require a lot of memorization, but we just need to bear with each other. I promise that the other chapters are going to be much more easier and more fun. Thank you for listening and have a great day.